So, ladies and gentlemen, out in Revolution Land, I know everyone's at home, so we're here to provide you some uplifting entertainment in terms of the new watches from Jaeger-LeCoultre or Jaeger-LeCoultre, depending if you're if you're a francophone or if you're English is your first language. And I have joining me today the wonderful Lionel Favre, the head of product design. So, Lionel, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. I live in France, so the confinement is very strict. But I'm very lucky. I have a garden, so I can be quiet in the nature.
It's nice because for the first time I get to experience people, from the perspective of them at home, and I like the bookshelves that you have in the back. Clearly, you're you like one of your hobbies is reading. There's a beautiful window outside. It's green. The sky looks lovely. I think one of the byproducts of no one going out is the so Greta would be happy.
No, it's really nice. I am in the full nature, not far from Geneva, but I'm very lucky.
Fantastic. So Lionel, very excited because we get to go through the new Master Control collection. This is in some ways one of my favorite collections that Jaeger produces. I know it was first introduced in 1992, and I know we are relaunching it this year for 2020. I think of it as one of the best expressions of extremely pure watchmaking. Pure watch
yes,
design,
totally.
Zen, reductionist. I mean, it's just wonderful in that, like, it's essential. Everything that needs to be there, every marker, every sort of index. It's just done in a very discreet, quiet way, but that also creates this wonderful language and philosophy for watchmaking that I think of almost like the Zen of watchmaking. Would you agree with it?
Yes, totally agree. Master Control is a collection very pure, huh? But what is important to know, it's we have Master Control, we have Master Ultratin, and we have Master Grande Tradition. And it's important to understand the difference. Master Control, which we have restyled this year, adopt a classic casual timeless look with a case which is better adapted to useful complication, such as the legendary Memovox caliber or the Geographic caliber. And Master Ultratin is a more formal watch, very pure too, but is a more formal watch inspired by super thin pocket watches from the beginning of the century. It's a collection for more traditional complications, such as a perpetual calendar or tourbillon. And the third member of the Master family is the Master Grande Tradition. This is a timepiece, and in this timepiece we find calibers that combines several major eye complications, such as the perpetual calendar tourbillon or the celestial tourbillon minute repeater caliber that I will present you later in a few minutes.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. So yes, just to, what do you want? I can speak about more about
why don't we go through the master
about the collection?
Yeah, why don't we go through the master collection? Well, why don't we go through the master collection watch by watch? So Sumit, who's on this call, also has the images of the watches, and he will screen share them with us as well, so we can explore the watches in detail. Would that work?
Okay, so what I can do, I can speak about because for me it's better if I can speak about a little about the historic of the Master Control. After that, I speak about a little bit about design.
So why don't we start just a little bit with, as you said, the history of the collection, and then a little bit about the design as well.
So so Master Control is the first collection to have benefited from our internal certification, the 1000 hours control, the 1000 hours control, which inspired its name. A series of tests which ensure the reliability of the watch. This control consists during 6 weeks to test the watch assembled, not only the caliber, in 6 positions, which reproduce the condition on a wrist. The watch is exposed to different temperature variation, shocks, magnetic fields. We test the water resistance, the accuracy. And today we have extended this test to all the model of the Grande maison. And as you said, this collection was launched in 1992 and was inspired by the legendary watches from Jaeger-LeCoultre, the legendary watches created in the 50s or in the 60s, like the Memovox, the Futurmatic, the Geomatic. It took over the codes at that time, such as the mix of Dauphine indexes with numbers, the curved dial, the small dots of Superluminova. And the new master control keeps this 50s inspiration. The objective of the new design was to make the case thinner and lighter, more pure, even more exaggerates the extremely simplicity. And so to do that, we refine the bezel to open the dial and gain in readability, and redesign the curve of the lugs to accentuate the roundness of the case and add softness to the watch. Ergonomics has also been reworked. And the harmony and balance of the elements that make a watch like Master Control are very important. This type of watches are classic and timeless, with a strong link to the watchmaking tradition. So we try to find the right balance of details, materials, shapes, a bit like a tailor who makes a suit. The difference is made on the cut, the materials, the choice of fabrics, the quality of sewing, or the inner linings. On the watch like Master Control, the refinement comes from details too, and they have all been revisited. Everything is important. The deepness of the case back engraving, the crown offer a better grip. We have worked a lot on the finishing of the case, the finishing of the dials, alternating the azurage, the sunray finishes, the opaline finishes. We have created a lot of different reflection of gray, very subtle, tone on tone, you know, with all these different finishes. But our movement have been upgraded. Our watchmaker worked on a base movement, the 899. It has been upgraded with a new barrel and new escapement to optimize the reliability and to permit to have now 70 hours power reserve.
Should we start maybe with the simplest one, the master control date that we just had up there, you know?
Okay, okay.
And I think maybe the first thing we should also mention is, I think in the context of 1992, to have this 1,000 hour power control was something very innovative, right? Because at the time, I think, and of course, as you were mentioning, that this quality check was also being done for the entire watch rather than just for the movement. To give people a frame of reference, that the cost certificate, which I think was the Swiss control for chronometer performance, that was being done primarily only for movements, right? And I think the idea that you were testing the complete watches was something that was really in some ways necessary, especially for a brand that really, or a manufacturer that really wanted to express the quality of their timekeeping. So that's amazing. Right, and that's something you took upon yourselves to achieve. So you created your own quality control test of 1,000 hours, which I think is really amazing, right? So it's a watch that in some ways represents two things. It represents minimalism and purity in terms of design, which the new one does as well, but also at the same time represents the underlying quality of Jaeger, which I think is also a very nice tribute to how complete a manufacturer that Jaeger is in terms of it having the capacity to create every single dimension of watchmaking in-house, and in general has always been like that, right? Which is very different from the majority of other watch brands.
Totally.
So maybe let's take a look first at the master control date, which I guess if we're talking about purity, it's the purest of the pure. Because
yes, but I can tell you more if you want about the master control date.
Please.
Yes, the beauty of this watch, I agree with you, comes from its simplicity. Its aesthetics gives a minimalist spirit, which make the dial very, very efficient, perfectly legible. The richness of finishes and details brings some sophistication and refinement. And as you see, the cognac color leather soften the looks of the timepiece, and the light dome of the dial is really nice. It's create a really light shadow, very interesting. The Dauphine are longer than the previous model, so yes, the watch is pure, and this purity is very interesting.
No, it's lovely, and you know, when I look at it, it reminds me of how Cary Grant used to dress. I don't know if you've ever seen this
Yes.
movie North by Northwest, but I like it because he's wearing just one suit throughout the entire movie, and he's wearing a gray suit, basically with a white shirt and a gray tie, and then he's got silver hair as well. So he's kind of like this master of monochrome, you know.
Yes.
And what I like about this watch is that monochrome is actually not easy to achieve because you have to use a bunch of very different and subtle complementary items to create this sense of of visibility and style, you know.
Yes, monochrome, you need to play with light. So it's interesting because the gray color and the different of finishing, you can play with the lights. If you have an azurage, the light move differently from a guilloche or from a satin. So that that's interesting to see that there is a different type of gray, and this look like simple, but if you come more deeper in the watch, there is a lot of and many subtlety.
You know, what I like about this watch also is even though it is apparently simple, there's this great sense of dynamic energy from the watch. And I think it's because that if you look at the dial, you have, as you call it, the azurage, I guess, this sort of sun ray effect that's emanating from the center of the watch. It's very subtle. But then at the same time, you've selected indexes that are like these pointed indexes that also complement this sense of energy radiating outwards. And then you've got these hands, which are, as you were mentioning, longer than the previous ones, which also give it both a sense of of elegance, but also, again, of this sort of energy that's coming out of the watch as well. So even when you look at it and you think, okay, this is an apparently simple watch, there's something about it that feels dynamic. And as you were saying, this is a watch that's meant to be used in a slightly different way from the extra thin watches, the master extra thin watch, ultra thin watches, which are more of a dress watch. This is a watch for a guy that's on the move, that can wear it in a sports chic way, that can wear it in a casual way, and there's a nice sense of energy. And I like the choice of the cognac strap because this is how this is kind of the color that all the young guys are choosing today for their straps, right? Even
Yes, really.
even guys for when they buy a vintage watch, this is the first color of strap that they'll put. And then I like the fact that of everything that you have here, the only kind of real burst of color is the central seconds hand, which is the perfect touch of color, because without this, somehow it would be a little bit, too harsh. Was that the idea?
Yes. No, I like a lot of the strap. I think it gives it adds a lot of style to the watch, and but this leather is a reference of natural calf leather with a very pleasant touch feeling called candle touch, and it adopts super patina over the time.
Nice.
And yes, it's a really nice strap, and it gives some style to the watch. I agree with you. Yes,
Very cool.
and the strap is easy to change. We have an interchangeability system on the watch. So if you prefer a crocodile or another color, it's easy to change. And it's a special bracelet because it's a vegetal tanning without
Nice.
chrome,
Yeah.
very natural. And I think this natural aspect fits really well with the simplicity of the watch.
I like that. It's good for the environment too, which is important,
Yeah.
as we can see today. Okay, let's go from this to the next watch. So we're going to go now to the Master Control Calendar, which I also think is, again, a really wonderful expression of very pure watchmaking. I mean, great visibility. Just when you imagine the perfect calendar watch, this is kind of like exactly how what you would dream of. I love also the fact that the day and the month are jumping as opposed to dragging. You know. So please tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that watch.
No, yes, it's really nice. The that end jumped between the 15 and the 16 of the months to have an unobstructed view over the moon phase indicators. So it's a small twist, but really interesting, and it's a new movement for us. We have fully revamped the complication by highlighting its complexity with this twist. Originally, this twist of ends, you can find this in our tourbillon calibers. Yes, it's the spirit of this type of complication come from the 50s too. So it fits really well, like our chrono calendar. Or it's good to have a design, but even to have a movement with the same inspiration, with the same DNA. This moon dat is perfect with master control. We have a new moon phase with a new constellation with very small stars. We have a lot of different gray like the dat, and it's it's a nice watch.
Excellent, Lionel. So I guess the feature here is that you have this wonderful indication of the date where it basically jumps over the moon phase from the 15th to the 16th, and that's where you have this. Okay, that's cool. Very cool. That's nice.
What is nice is the balance in terms of design. It's like the chrono calendar. This type of complication is very nice because it's very well balanced in the dial. The double windows. There is a sort of symmetry, a purity. It's like it's a graphic complication for me. It's strong because it's really well and really harmonious in the dial. All the different indication are very harmonious. There is no asymmetry. It's quite perfect.
It's very charming. And in both of the watches, I also really like the way in which you've used the luminova, which is very subtle. It's just in these small plots that in the perimeter of the dial next to the indexes, and then very, very subtly in the hands as well. Great. Well, let's go to the watch that you were just talking about, the Master Control Chronograph calendar, which is also, I like it because there's a lot going on, but at the same time, it seems very calm, you know?
Yeah, no, it's an elegant watch. It's a new automatic caliber that combines a chronograph with a triple dat day mounts in the double windows at 12 and the dead calendar at 6 o'clock around the blue lacquered moon gives a sort of a mix between elegance and sportness. So it's nice with master control. And this is a legendary complication in the watchmaking world with an extremely well-balanced display of function. This movement fits really well. I really like the sporty aspect and the elegance. The dial is silver with a light sunray finish. The indexes are faceted. They are luminous point at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. Blue hands, some blue hands for the seconds, the small seconds, and the minute counter. We had a pulsometric scale, more in tune with the spirit of the watch than a tachymeter. And the date and the moon phase adjusted using the corrector located on both sides. The movement is really nice with iron finishes, Côte de Genève, visible column wheel, blue screws, pinhole oscillating mass, and the diameter of the watch is 40 millimeter for a thickness of 12 millimeters. That's a really cool watch, yes. And the strap is a cognac calf leather with a natural color, same as all the collection.
So this is an image of the movement. So as Lionel was mentioning, you've got an automatic line movement, column wheel for the chronograph, and I believe it's a vertical clutch movement, correct? where the
yes, exactly.
where the chronograph wheel is being engaged by the drive wheel, not on the perimeter as you have in a traditional manual wound chronograph, but sort of one on top of the other. The benefit of this is that there's no loss of amplitude when the chronograph is running, so you can keep this on for as long as you want. You don't have to worry about it, which is great. Let's go back to the front of the watch. I love the pulsometer. So the pulsometer is basically a scale that was popularized in the 1950s by doctors used to wear it, I guess, in the 40s and 50s. And it basically allows you to calculate someone's heart rate relatively quickly. So what you do is you start the chronograph at the first pulse, and then you count 30 pulses or beats, and then you stop the chronograph, and then you see the scale on the perimeter there. It will tell you what your heart rate is. For me, in the evening, because I have a couple of pulsographs, usually mine is around sort of 75 or so. Then when I start drinking Negronis, it starts to go slower. And then around by my third or fourth Negroni, I think it's usually about 60, and which is usually time. That's when I know that it's time for me to go to bed. So let's move on from there. But great watch, and I love the sizes that you're doing. So I think all of the watches we've seen so far are 40 mm, which is really the perfect size. Also, just to give you some perspective in terms of thickness. So the first watch, the Master Day, was just under 9 mm in thickness, which is actually a very, very wearable size. So even though these watches are complicated, they have calendar functions, they have chronographs, they're not massive. They've been engineered to be very elegant on the wrist, correct?
The movement is beautiful. It's not enough just a beautiful function, but if you look at the movement, there is a beautiful decoration, and it's the pure tradition of watchmaking. So,
if those of you who have never been to Le Sentier and have never been to the Jaeger manufacturer, you should try to get there. You know, well, certainly not now, but once everything clears up and once people are allowed to travel.
Yes, come. It's really nice.
It's incredible, you know, and it was the first manufacturer that I ever went to. I went, I think, in 2004 for the launch of the Giro Tourbillon, I think, with Eric Coudray and back when Jerome was there.
Okay.
And Isabel when she was 12 years old, and she was a prodigy, of course.
Okay.
and it was kind of spoils you, because when you see how deep the in-house capacity of Jaeger is, you almost imagine that every manufacturer should be able to do this, which is not necessarily true. You know,
yes,
so
yeah.
It's quite remarkable. Okay, let's go from that. So one of your iconic complications is the Geographic, and the Geographic it's basically, if you were to think of a 2 time zone watch, and the best and clearest and easiest to use expression of it, I think it's basically this watch. So Lionel, please explain to us your design approach to this, because I love how intuitive it is to use, and how we use it, in fact.
It's simple. It's a legendary complication. Since the end of the 80s, the Geographic is a signature of Jaeger-LeCoultre, and we have redesigned the dial by incorporating the characteristic large amphitheater flange in the continuity of the city windows at 6 o'clock. And yes, this is a truly useful watch, able to display 24 different time zones, and very easy to use. You put the name of the city you want to know the time it is in front of the arrow, and you instantly have the ends in the 6-hour counter that turn the display to the corresponding time.
Wonderful.
So yes, it's a very useful watch,
and you
and
have the time indicator next to it as well. Since it's in the 12-hour format, it gives you also the time, whether it's day hours or night hours in New York. So, for example, if New York was our hometown, correct? And this is the local time here would be 10:15, and then the time in New York would be 7:15 in the evening. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, you're correct.
Which would mean that in New York it would be Negroni time. Beautiful watch, Lionel. Absolutely love it. Fantastic.
Thank you.
How are you spending your days, Lionel?
It's difficult. Honestly, it's difficult because because I like to be in the manufacturer and to work with all the watchmakers. And the historical of the base of the manufacturer is the collaboration.
Yes.
And collaboration by screen, it's okay, but
It's not quite the same.
not the same. And we need to touch, we need to see the lights, and it's harder by screen, sure.
I was having the same conversation with Orel Box because I was like, is it possible to proceed with the auctions purely digitally? He's like, probably you could sell some watches, but the thing is, when it becomes a really special watches, it's the emotion of the collector holding the watch.
Totally agree. Yes, I've seen his interview. Yes, and I.
And I agree with him. It's like it's really hard to replicate this. You can't do it through a screen. It's not. You won't get that sense.
Yes,
and
totally.
The way the watch feels when you're winding it, and how it sits on your wrist, and
exactly.
all of these elements. And also we're
and it's a watch is so small, so all the details you need to have to see how the light moves on the watch, and it's something you wow, good, nice, really nice.
Thank you. This was is the yellow gold with a 1931 dial in brown, but it's in the classique size, so it's a smaller watch. But I like it.
Yeah. Yes, in pink gold.
Yes.
Or in yellow gold. Yellow gold, huh? Yellow gold, yes.
Mm-hmm. To make it feel even more a little bit vintagey,
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Well, I think there's really a place, like, it seems that elegance is coming back in a big way, and that people, I think one of the things that will emerge from this period is people will want less they will still want beautiful things, but I think the whole idea of showing off is going to be quite different, because think about it from the perspective of how the economic impact is going to be for the world, and suddenly, and so I think after this, everyone thought, the first thing they will think about is, if I buy something, first of all, how is it impacting the people and the planet, right? And okay, watches I feel are incredibly ethical, because at the end of the day, they last forever, and they're made only to make people happy. And also, obviously, the Swiss manufacturers are moving towards carbon neutrality if they haven't achieved it already, or very conscious about the environment. But then it becomes, okay, but what message are you going to send to society? Because if everyone else is like going out of business or having a challenge economically, then even if you're a rich guy, not that I am, but even if you're a rich guy, if you're suddenly driving around in some car, that it's like that could pay for the more people's homes, or that could have paid that car could have paid for the business that has gone under. You become such an asshole, So I think that subtlety, beauty, pure,
authenticity.
Correct.
And authenticity. It's interesting, because that's what I like with the manufacturer. With the Jaeger-LeCoultre manufacturer, if you come to the manufacturer, you will feel this authenticity. There is a real. It's not something built just to. It come from 200 years ago, and there is a culture. There is something very strong that you feel when you're in this manufacturer, and this type of authenticity we try to share with the product.
Yes.
And but I think authenticity, yes, in the coming months will be, and maybe in the coming year, in the coming year, will be very, very important. Yeah.
I think the other thing that Jaeger does very well is the proposition of it's a value proposition also, right? It's not one of those watch brands where it's just super expensive for no reason, except to be super expensive. There's always there's a rationale behind the watch and what the cost is. And usually you're kind of like pleasantly surprised that it's a little bit more accessible than you thought it would be, right? And I think that that's also something that people will consider a lot, because, after this, of course, people will want to be happy and they'll want to spend money, but they look, I need to also feel like I'm getting a correct value and authentic value, you're saying,
Yes, exactly, and it's very important when we design a product. We think a lot about the price aspect, but never to degrade the product. We think about we think about perfection, but we try to find solution to be very consistent in terms of price. Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you very much,
Woo!
Isabel.
That's a sexy watch.
Yeah.
So Lionel, can you tell us a
Yes,
little bit
an
about
astronomical watch. Okay, no. We have worked a new interpretation of our caliber 945, the master in a master Grande tradition case, and this piece reaffirmed the link between the astronomy and horology. The 945 caliber is unique. It combines a minute repeater, a sideral calendar, an orbital flying tourbillon. I will explain you that the celestial vault you can see on the top of the dial give the position of the stars in real time.
Right.
Visible from the north hemisphere. Huh?
Right.
The dial turn with the flying tourbillon to make a sideral revolution in 23 hours,
right.
56 minutes and 4 seconds. This is the time that stars take to come back to the same position,
right.
because the sideral time is different from the solar time.
Right.
And the sky chart is supported by a 3D structure in gold thread, inspired by imaginary lines which connect the stars to each other. And which many civilizations before us created to recognize the constellation.
That's incredible.
And this 3D structure is very complex to do because of its great finesse, but gives a strong character and an interesting deepness to the timepiece. In the back of the watch, you can see the movement with the gongs and the hammer. And as you know, maybe chiming calibers are historical specialty of Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Yes.
And the 945 has the particularity of having gong welded to the glass to amplify the sound.
Right.
And we have hammer, we called Trébuchet, yes, exactly, Trébuchet, because it was the name of a medieval catapult, which were the inspiration for the striking mechanics, with a double axis to reinforce the striking power.
Amazing.
So the sound is really nice,
yes.
really deep, really crystal feel, and it's a very strong watch due to the structure in the dial. The case, you know, this is the case, and this case take up the aesthetic of the Grande tradition that we inaugurated with the Giro-Tourbillon Westminster Perpetuel that we launched last year, the Giro 5, you remember?
I do.
This is the same architecture of case with a lot of details, with added lugs, with different of finishing. So yes,
it's awesome, you know, and I love it because
it's
this wonderful sort of merger between métier d'art, poetic expression of time, complication, and innovation that is unique to Jaeger. You know, as you were mentioning, the minute repeater. But it's, you know, your minute repeater is incredibly innovative because your gongs are welded to the sapphire, which projects the sound outwards. And then on top of that, the trebuchet hammers, it's a hammer that is like double jointed basically. And so it creates even more momentum when it's striking the gong, which is incredible, which adds to the loudness of it. So you've got an innovation in the hammers and an innovation related to the attachment system of the gongs. You've got this amazing tourbillon here, which basically has two types of rotation. It's probably a 1 minute tourbillon, which it looks like it's got a nice silicone escapement wheel. And it's also got this really cool looking cage, you know, which looks like these, it's really minimalistic and has these beautiful sort of like a crescent moon shape to it. And on either side. And then on top of that, this whole tourbillon is not only rotating on its own axis, but it's rotating as if it's on a platform around the perimeter of the dial in one sidereal day, which, as you mentioned, is different from a solar day. And then on top of that, you've got sidereal time, which is, you know, looking at the rotation of the stars if you were from the Northern Hemisphere, which is a magnificent watch. So you've got our connection to and it's also nice, it's a nice way of reminding us that we're all connected in this world also, and that time has such roots in astrology and astronomy. In astronomy as well, and it's it's just a remarkable watch. Really cool. Bravo, Lionel. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think with that, am I correct that we have concluded the presentation of the 2020 novelties for Jaeger-LeCoultre thus far? Because I'm sure you'll have more things across the rest of the year.
Yes. It was the first chapter of the novelties, but you will discover in the months to come the others novelties, others innovative novelties. So
fantastic.
Hope to see you in a few months.
Absolutely. I look forward to it, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Isabelle, Gervais, thank you also for joining us as well remotely. Best to you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.